Welcome to the show. I'm Jason Whitlock. Coming up, I'll tell you why Jimmy G's big night out was a mistake and why this might be Bill Belichick's last season in New England. But we begin today in the NFL with the joint announcement by the league and the NFL Players Association that has suspended all national anthem rules until further notice. The two sides said in a statement, the NFL and the NFLPA, through recent discussions, have been working on a resolution to the anthem issue. In order to allow this constructive dialogue to continue, we have come to a standstill agreement on the NFL's PA's grievance and on the NFL's anthem policy. No new rules relating to the anthem will be issued or enforced over the next several weeks while these confidential discussions are ongoing. All right, there's a disease ravaging this country. It's called toxic stupidity. It's caused by Twitter and Facebook. Social media is the primary reason a group of 31 billionaire owners and 1,700 millionaire players have been fighting about the national anthem for 2 years. 2 years. In 1996, it took the NBA 2 days to figure out what to do with Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf after he publicly stated the national anthem was a symbol of tyranny and oppression. The NBA suspended Rauf until he agreed to stand, and the league hasn't had a problem since. But that was before social media amplified and normalized toxic stupidity. Now everyone with a laptop or a smartphone is a thought leader and public intellectual, and the tech gurus in Silicon Valley can use the platforms they created to instill San Francisco radicalism across the country. The NFL, the most powerful force in pop culture, and the #1 TV show on 5 different networks, is in the Silicon Valley crosshairs. The league that rode to prominence on uber patriotism is being forced to bow to revolutionaries. So what's the solution? It hasn't changed from 1996. The cure for toxic stupidity is still common sense. You can't negotiate with toxic stupidity. The NFL tried that months ago and gave Malcolm Jenkins Players Coalition nearly $100 million to fund community-based work. That was supposed to solve the national anthem controversy. It didn't. It inspired a second shakedown. Now DeMaurice Smith and the NFLPA want their bite of the apple. A year or two from now, there will be a third and fourth shakedown. The common sense cure is a hard and fast rule. The NFL should impose something simple. You protest during the national anthem, you're immediately suspended for that game. Let Jarrell Casey and all the wannabe kneelers pay that fine. That's how you end this controversy. All right, joining me now, 3 former NFL players. James Harrison just came off the field this year. TJ Houshmandzadeh, former Pro Bowler, and Bucky Brooks, former player and scout. I really think there's a simple solution here, and it will cause instant controversy for a week or two, and then it'll go away. You kneel, you protest, you don't play that game. End of controversy.
Let me give you an instant problem to your instant solution. Yeah. Team's out of it. The whole team says, you know what, we're going to kneel. Nobody plays the game, you refund.
Nobody gets paid.
So you just refund. That would never happen because now you got to refund tickets. It's too much.
Players really going to give up a game check. A whole team's going to give up a game check.
You never know. If guys get together, it will because we're going to call your bluff now. Cancel the game. We'll cancel the game. Now what happens?
Over not being able to kneel during the national anthem.
It's not about the kneeling. That's the thing. Like it's come down to it's the national anthem protest. It's the national anthem issue. It's not a national anthem issue. It's social injustice issue. So what you have to do is change the name and get that off the board about the anthem issue. That's what we don't need. We need social injustice awareness.
Okay.
That's what it's all about. And you're saying, I understand you're saying right there is not the time to do it, okay? No, right there is the time to do it because it brings awareness to it. Like you said, they may have gave all this money to whoever they gave the money to raise all this awareness somewhere else, and it's not getting any airplay. But you go and do it right there on that stage, now it's getting airplay.
Who started this social injustice protest? The 49ers, Kaepernick, Reed, and those guys.
Exactly.
But then the Players Coalition is Malcolm Jenkins. Why? the guys that actually started this, they have no foot in, they have no say-so on what goes on, where the money goes. And so to me, that's problem number one. You get Malcolm Jenkins, Alquan Bolden, if I'm not mistaken, but Kaepernick, Eric Reed, those guys that actually started this, they have no say-so on what's going on. That's wrong right there within itself.
I think the big thing is at some point, we have to be able to move past this. You talk about offering up a solution. At some point, we have to be able to get it away from that, whatever the protest is, and get it back to the game, because it has hung over the game's head for the past 2 years. They politicized it. The president has made it a bigger issue than it's need to be. At some point, the players and the owners have to get together, come up with a solution that puts it on the back burner. It has been too long to have so many people taking attacks at the NFL.
James, I want to go back to your point of it's somehow the media's fault, our fault for saying it's a national. It's not, James, because look, if they wanted the issue to just be talked about, the police and social injustice, you protest at City Hall or police headquarters as NFL players, everybody will talk about that issue. If you do it right before kickoff in an NFL stadium during the national anthem, people are going to talk about the national anthem.
So when are they supposed to do it? Because you working all this time during the season. You like 8 months of season work. You're from 6 to 6. They're closed after 6 o'clock, right? We just go down there and stand there and just.
Don't y'all get Tuesdays off? Don't y'all have Victory Mondays?
But it's the publicity of doing it during the game. The eyes that are watching the game. That's what they're going for.
This all got construed by the president as it's a disrespect to the troops. Who's the person that told Colin Kaepernick to kneel instead of sit on the bench?
James.
Who is it? Tell me who was.
I know, it was Nate Boyer. I get all that. I get all that.
As a sign of what?
James.
As a sign of what? Respect.
James, you're married, correct?
No, I'm not.
You used to be married.
No, I haven't.
I'm married. I'm married.
I saw some things about you and your family. You've been in a relationship.
Yes.
You've been in a relationship.
Yes.
So when you get in an argument, there's certain times where if you want to address a certain issue, there's times that are better than other times if you want to be heard. And so, again, if your wife or significant other is right in the middle of doing something that she deems as highly important, and then you say, you know what, baby, I want to talk about our credit card bill right now. She's like,
is that highly important to you at that time? Then we go talk about it then. I don't see an issue
in the
with
middle of something she deems important and doesn't want to talk about credit card debt at this time. The argument, you may have a legitimate point, but the argument goes nowhere. Can't you see I'm in the middle of taking care of this baby?
No, I can't see. I see I got $15,000 worth of credit card debt right here on here, and I'm trying to figure out where it's coming from.
And that's your perspective.
Okay.
But if you want progress, if you want the other side to engage with you and see what you're talking about, you're going to have to find a time when they're open to doing that. Football fans, they sit down on Sunday. You haven't been a football fan in a long time. You've been a football player. They sit down on Sundays like, let's play some football. People in the stands, they just want football. You're trying to do something when they're not ready, don't want to hear it.
It doesn't affect the game, though. It doesn't affect the game. You're going to still get a great quality game. You're going to enjoy it. It does not affect the game.
But if you can't be heard, what's the point? If everybody's going to talk about, if what you're doing is causing everybody to talk about the national anthem rather than the issue you want addressed, what's the point?
Do you agree?
They're saying it's the national anthem. It's not the national anthem.
Do you agree if the NFL does nothing about, you either have to stand or stay in the locker room, it's going to it was pretty much over with. They brought this to the front again. They did this to themselves by saying, you must come out. Or you must stay in the locker room. When you come out, you can't kneel. If not, stand.
They gave him two options. They gave him too many options.
They shouldn't have done any of that.
When you're dealing with children, you got to take options off the table and just give them what's best for them. Give them the vegetables. Because, again, at the end of the day, when you play the game the way y'all played it, and particularly this dude, it's about getting as much money out of this game as you can. That needs to be the mission. You're taking too many risks. The careers are too short to jeopardize how much money you can make. And it's like the young people in this game don't understand the reason why they're making all this money rather than the $50,000 a year guys used to make. is because the game was attached to patriotism. That's how they overshadowed Major League Baseball. What they're doing is just off-brand and costing them money.
I think what you can do, taking a little cue from what Malcolm Jenkins did when he did the silent protest during the media time. I think you have to find
inside the locker room.
Inside the
After
locker
the
room.
game.
I think you have to find alternative means of being able to get your message across. Right now, anything that you do during the national anthem is going to be clouded. It's going to detract from what your message is. You have to find creative solutions to be able to get your voice out, to be able to shed light on the causes that you deem to be very, very important.
You know what you do? To me, you have this money, get it back into the community now. Get it back into the community and exact real change. Because
that's what the owners feel like they did with the Players Coalition.
The problem is what I said earlier. The Players Coalition came from guys, in my opinion, that weren't really involved in this. They got involved in it because they saw what other guys were doing, and they said, let me get in this.
Let's keep it real. Colin Kaepernick doesn't talk. He does not talk.
And he doesn't have to.
But you want him to be the leader. You
I didn't
want
say
him
I
to
didn't, I didn't
dictate
say
where the money
I didn't
goes.
say make him be the leader.
To fill the void
Give him,
because the guy that's doing it doesn't like to talk.
Give him a seat at the table. Give him a seat at the table. He'll talk privately amongst.
They gave him a seat. He just don't like the table.
A permanent seat. A permanent seat.
They gave him the seat that he earned. I want to go back. I want to go back again, or just unpack this a little bit more. My contention that social media and the addiction to social media is driving a lot of the behavior of these players.
Well, you got to realize the NFL, they're being very reactionary in everything that they do.
Players or owners?
The NFL, the NFL,
Roger Goodell.
They're being reactionary in everything that they do. They're reacting to something that happened and how you said social media and everyone is seeing it and what they're saying, and they're like, oh, they said this, so we got to go and do this or that. And I think the reaction that they had from saying, oh, we're going to suspend guys 4 games is now, oh, stop, slow it down. And I think this is a good thing because now it's opening dialogue between the NFL and the NFLPA and trying to actually hopefully come up with something that's going to make a real change.
So you think the ownership or Goodell are addicted to social media, and I think they're afraid of social media. I think the players are addicted to social media.
They are. I mean, players are certainly impacted because now with the millennials, everyone has grown up in the Twitterverse, Instagram, Snapchat. The reaction seems to be real. People that you don't know can hide in the basement of their houses, and they can have an opinion on what you think. And so it is a visceral thing. There are reactions that come to that. And because of that, you have to make solid stands. You have to make solid decisions on how you're going to go forward with this and any other big issue, because the first thing that happens is after something is enacted, everyone on Twitter has a reaction. And if you go by the Twitter reaction, you can be like a tree blowing in the wind. At some point, you got to put roots down.
Thank you. And you have to be willing to deal with the blowback. And that's why, again, David Stern in the NBA in '96, they weren't dealing with social media. They were dealing with a few people in the media that were upset.
You can't do everything you did in '96, do it now. It's the future. People are looking at things differently. You said you could do that in '96. Well, if you go to 1896, what was they doing then? It was fine with everybody then, except for the people they were doing it to.
James, you've made a decent point.
Okay.
It's a decent, but it's not based in reality because
that's not based in reality?
No, because it's two different things. Let's don't slavery.
You talking about time?
First of all, slavery was over in 1896, but
I'm talking about time.
You meant 1896 or 1796. But I still get your point. However, as it relates to this, you have to be willing to stand up and make a decision and deal with the Twitter blowback because it's not reality. Twitter is not the real world.
True.
Twitter is the phoniest world that we've ever created, and too many of these players are living in it. That's why they can't see the NBA players. They got guaranteed contracts. The little small handful of them, 400, 500 NBA players, make more guaranteed money, make more money than the NFL. They had a player beaten up by the police on video or mistreated by the police on video in Milwaukee. There's no pressure on NBA players to take a knee and to do anything to damage their brand or damage their league. The NFL players want to take this on and they don't see the hypocrisy. The NBA has a higher percentage of black players. They have guaranteed contracts. They have more protection than NFL players. But y'all want to be the guys and look at the NBA stand on the sidelines and protect the shoe companies. That's why they won't make a move, because their real boss is the shoe companies, and they don't want the NBA players dirtying up shoe sales by doing something that will be perceived, whether it is or not, it will be perceived as unpatriotic.
It's become the biggest problem pretty much in sports today, this national anthem issue. Honestly, they need to get you on there and you can kind of mediate this, because you make really good points. Every time we discuss this, you make really good points. And sometimes I'm like, oh, man, Jason.
Yeah, I was like,
he makes some good points, right?
I'm like, but I'm not going with him all the way. You know?
I'm right. I've been thinking about these issues my whole life.
It's never a partnership between NFL players and owners, the NBA players and owners. But the NBA makes it seem like they have a partnership with their players. It seems like they work together, and that's the biggest thing with the NFL. It's no partnership, never will be a partnership. They don't care about the players, or perceive it to us. It looks like they have no feelings at all.
Listen, those are easy things to say, but I would guarantee you, if I had a private conversation with you about Mike Brown and some of the things that he's done for Cincinnati Bengals players, if I had a conversation with you about the Rooney family and the things they've done for Pittsburgh Steelers players, if I talk with you about the Hunt family, Lamar and Clark. And so it's easy to get on TV and say the owners don't care about the players. But when you really think about it and your relationship with ownership.
I'm not saying don't care. It's not a partnership, meaning we're not in this together. It will never be that way.
And there's a myth that there's this great partnership between NBA owners and NBA players, and everybody goes, well, but Donald Sterling, that was the exception. Dan Gilbert's relationship with LeBron James, that's the exception. All the other, James Dolan and his relationship with Charles Oakley, those are all just exceptions.
And you name one player in the NFL that can get multiple guys signed to his team. Let me know that.
You name one player who's worthy of getting multiple guys signed to his team, and let me know that that's going to be a good thing. The other 52 guys in the locker room be like, we ain't signing all this dude's boys and friends. So that's a silly standard. And again, if you deal in reality, NBA players do not have a better relationship with ownership than NFL players. It's a myth and it's a lie that's spread over social media and repeated on TV. The reality is, NBA players make far more money. LeBron James will make 20 times more money from Nike than he will from any NBA owner. Same goes for Kevin Durant, Steph Curry. The shoe companies are calling the shots on these guys. That's why they're not even remotely pretending like they're going to do something during the national anthem, because the shoe companies know it's bad business. And so the NBA players sit up and pretend like, we're so black and we're Malcolm X and it's all a game.
And they need to get the shoe companies in the NFL then.
Y'all don't sell shoes like that. And so y'all cutting the NBA players some slack and taking on something that no one else is doing. Nobody else. They're not asking me on this job, protest, do some, make a gesture. Nobody, and all the people on the sideline clapping while y'all keep burning up your money. That's great, blah, blah, blah. They're not doing it on their jobs either. They're pretending. They're putting on an act for social media. We got to stop it. All right, welcome back. James Harrison, Bucky Brooks, and TJ Houshmandzadeh are back. Let's return to the NFL, which joined with the NFLPA yesterday to put a freeze on the league's new national anthem policy announced back in May. But that decision appeared to be in response to the reaction after the Miami Dolphins put out an anthem conduct policy for their players, including punishments of up to 4 games for violating the policy. Not surprisingly, social media erupted in outrage, including former Dolphin Reggie Bush, who said, quote, so you can take steroids or peacefully protest police brutality and murders against unarmed minorities and get the same suspension? What are you doing, Stephen Ross? This is not the answer. Today, the Dolphins owner responded to the outrage, saying, quote, or releasing a statement, I am passionate about the social justice, and through the Miami Dolphins and creation of RISE, will continue to use the unifying power of sports to improve race relations and drive social progress. All right, I think the NFL and Stephen Ross are being a bit unfairly targeted here. I think we have this perception out there that if you're against kneeling, that means you're racist or you're against the cause. This man, through the funding of that RISE program and the backing of Miami Dolphins players, is sponsoring real work in the community, and he feels like he's doing his part. And he's beyond, again, I'm just gonna say it and it'll be politically incorrect, but it's like, white people aren't into gestures. They're into actions. And so he's like, we're taking real action. And he's a little frustrated because the players are caught up in gestures and no one seems to be responding to his actions. And so I think it's an unfair standard that if somehow you're against the kneeling, somehow you get smeared as racist. I think him putting out this statement today, however, and saying, oh, it was just a clerical error or whatever, is probably a little CYA. But I just don't have a problem with Stephen Ross, and I think he's being unfairly smeared.
You know, like I said in the last segment, the more I hear you talk about this, you've kind of swayed me somewhat, not completely. What I will say is this, is with the Dolphins situation, is Stephen Ross, you're the owner of the Dolphins. If you feel it should be X, Y, and Z, then let it be X, Y, and Z. Don't flip-flop and change because you get backlash from the public that you did not expect. If you feel if anybody in your team is going to kneel and you want to give them the consequences, then give them the consequences. If you're going to suspend them a game or two, suspend them a game or two. Don't let the public backlash make you backtrack and say, oh, the NFL asked us for a statement. Now I'm going to retract everything that I said. If he's out there in the community trying to exact change, kudos to him. It's what you said, though. That's so true. White people are about actions, and us, we just gonna talk.
I think it's come down to everybody wants you to pick one side or the other. You can't be on this side and understand the other side. And in today's society, we've come to, if you're with this, then you gotta be against that. And I don't think that's necessarily true in everything that you do. So his reaction to, like you said, this is just a reaction from how everyone
It's turned into almost like it's a white people thing, it's a black people thing, and it shouldn't be the case. It's turned in, they trying to turn it into a racial thing where all black people believe in this and all white people believe in that. And I don't believe that's, and that's not the case, and that's the biggest problem.
Well, this is obviously what you talked about. This is a reaction to the social media storm that came after he levied the thing or they submitted the paperwork to the NFL. I think if you really look at Stephen Ross and what he's trying to do with the Miami Dolphins, they are one of the more active teams in the community. You look at what their players are doing, the support that the organization has gone behind it, it's unprecedented. They have 100% of their players registered to vote. So when you talk about real action, that's real action to enact change. So whatever it is that Stephen Ross is trying to accomplish with the national anthem policy, I would say his actions suggest that he supports his players and he wants them to be the best that they can be on and off the field.
Since it's just us brothers, I'm going to get the conversation a little bit more real. What drives me crazy as I watch the NFL and athletes deal with this issue, everything seems to be emotionally driven. Nothing seems to be logic. And I just sit there as men. How did we get so emotional? That everything
it's
is
young guys. You got to realize it's young guys, and you've been emotional your whole career. Even when I was in Pittsburgh and we decided after Trump had said whatever he said, everybody felt like they had to do something, and we thought we were doing the right thing by, we're going to just stay in the tunnel, and we're going to pull ourselves away from it. And things got clustered. You had coaches outstanding. You had, one of our players, he was outstanding. And then it looked like the rest of the team just left all these other people out to dry. So, I don't know. It's something that really, I think it has to be done all together. You know what I'm saying?
I really hope that they could sit down, NFL, PA, the NFL, and figure out these next few weeks what it's going to be, what it will be, so that we're not having this discussion anymore. It's not, oh, what is this player gonna do? What is this team gonna do? Let's enact the rule, and it is what it is. It's not gonna satisfy everybody, but it's the rule we're gonna go by.
They could do that. Roger Goodell, the NFL, they can do that. They have the power to do that. but they're so
They're trying to
afraid of the
compromise.
backlash that they're getting from fans, from social media, that they won't do that. You know, if at the end of the day, I was saying, you know, ridiculously, if he wanted to say a uniform violation was $100,000, that's what it is. You know, you have Tom Brady fighting him. You have other players that fighting. When they get to the highest court, they come down and they say, you know what? After reading this collective bargaining agreement that you guys signed, he can do what he wants.
Yeah.
Go. You got to sit out.
And you would know firsthand.
No question.
I'm fearful they're never going to reach a resolution because I think you have a group of businessmen whose mentality is not emotion, it's just logic and hardline business. And they're dealing with a group of players and a head of a PA, DeMaurice Smith, who are worried about an emotional and how's this going to play? How am I going to look in social media? How am I going to look in the media? Am I going to be called a sellout if we agree to some deal that doesn't allow our players to dirty up our business? And so you got emotion versus business and logic, and I just don't see a great solution.
You're right, because if you listen to the Twitter crowd and you try to appease them, you will never be right. At some point, the players and ownership have to reach a common ground. Whatever that ground is, they have to make a decision because this cannot continue to be on the front page. It has to go to the back page so we can focus on the game and not all the other stuff around the game.
You can never satisfy everybody. That's just not going to happen. Everybody's not going to be satisfied.
I'd rather satisfy my customer base than social media. All right, welcome back. Checking in on our SFY poll. In their primes, who wins this matchup, Jason 6-foot Ogden Whitlock or James Harrison? As expected, it's a close race. I thought I would be winning now. It's a 50-50 split. I would kill James Harrison in our prime.
That's false. I saw it when it was like 90-10, and then all of a sudden you told me you had to go to your room and things started.
Yeah, I told my followers to make sure I did not lose that. All right, let's return to the NFL and talk some Jimmy Garoppolo, who is putting his good looks, fame, and massive new contract to use. I don't know if it's good use. He's being spotted out by TMZ at a Beverly Hills restaurant, arm in arm with an adult film star. The very public date has prompted a lot of reaction, including from the 49ers six-time Pro Bowl offensive lineman Joe Staley, who chimed in with a since-deleted tweet saying, quote, "I've been great protection for 49ers QBs throughout the years. Hope our new quarterback, Jim doesn't need much, but if he does, I'll be at the ready. Hashtag Jim is a great decision maker." I think that's some sarcasm here by Joe Staley. Jim is not a great decision maker, and a lot of this conversation can be funny and we can laugh, but I really think if I'm the 49ers, I'm concerned.
Well, I know what he was thinking, but I don't know what he was thinking. You know what I'm saying? That's something that you know, I think he's gonna have to answer for, not just, you know, with coaches. I mean, when you get back into the locker room when camp starts, it's gonna be some questions to ask about that.
It's not quarterback etiquette, number one. Quarterbacks, they don't do those type of things. You're not gonna date or porn. It's just something that you don't
go out in public.
In public, you keep Netflix and chill. That's what the youngsters call it now. So that's what he should have done. But it's stretch line in the locker room. Guys are going to kill him over this because it's just, you just don't, you nice looking, you young, and you rich, and this is what you do. Wow.
No, I think from a franchise perspective, I think you always have to remember the quarterback is the face of the franchise. So he potentially could be tarnishing the brand in some way. And so when you think about, we don't see Peyton Manning, we don't see Matt Ryan, we don't see quarterbacks that are public figures that are expected to be outside of the head coach, the most important player on the squad. You just typically don't see quarterbacks engage in this kind of behavior. And I'm not necessarily condoning it, but as your quarterback, he's held to a higher standard. He has to be careful when he's out in public and who he engages with.
Again, we can laugh and joke it off, but I think it's a serious issue, and I'm not passing any judgment. There's definitely some shadiness in my past, and maybe in my present. But
Future?
Yes. But seriously, Bill Belichick may be laughing right now. And so, y'all had 5 games and a couple of extra weeks, and then you just handed this dude a bunch of money. And because again, when you are out publicly dating a porn star who, she doesn't have a toe in the game. She's knee deep in the game. She is the game. If you go look her up on Instagram, she's all the way in the game in every way possible. And that means that raises a red flag as an organization. Well, hold on. Drugs in the porn industry are like peanut butter and jelly. The criminal mafia element, peanut butter and jelly in the porn industry. And this is who you're out in public with. There's a lot of drama and baggage in her life that he's allowing into his life. Her friends, her associates, her lifestyle could impact. When I see him out in Beverly, I was like, I wonder how much sleep he's getting. I wonder, seriously, it's like, is he off into all the same things that she's off into? Those would raise red flags for me as an organization.
It's just odd that you would see a starting NFL quarterback of his stature now, because of his contract, you can date whoever you want. But it's just shocking because you don't see this. Quarterbacks, you're not supposed to do these types of things, and it's just a shocker. And it's what you said, it's not funny, but it questions if this is the type of decisions you are making in your personal life, it makes you question them.
You have to have a conversation. When he gets back to San Francisco, you have to at least have a conversation. You have to let him know, look, you're Jimmy Garoppolo. We just handed you a ton of money. You're representing the franchise every time you step out the door. So be careful with who you engage with because it's a reflection on the brand. And so that's something that's very real. It's something that has to be addressed.
You remember, we'd be playing, guys would be in the locker room with a Smooth magazine and say, hey, call the agent, be like, hey, get the February issue of Smooth magazine, contact her agent, I want to fly her in. Now it's just, you just get on Instagram and shoot them a message, and voila, there it is. And that's the biggest problem. It's so immediate. The access is too immediate.
Social media.
Look, money liberates you. And when you get that large sum of money, it's like, oh, I get to be who I really am. Mm-hmm. And they just gave Jimmy G that kind of money. And then when you throw on top of it, he's out in San Francisco, one of the most liberal places on the planet. Anything and everything goes. I'm not sure if he would have done this in New England, in Boston, with Bill Belichick, without the big money. You move him out to San Francisco, you give him $70, $80 million, and now it's like, here's the real Jimmy G. I'm Joe Namath on steroids, and he's just put a lot of pressure on himself.
You say he wouldn't do that in New England. Gronkowski, they had him out in public with a porn star.
Gronkowski's not the quarterback.
Different individual, but it was in New England.
You're right. You're right. But he's put a lot of pressure. If he does not deliver this season,
he in trouble.
People are going to point to this and say, we just gave a party boy a bunch of money.
I mean, that is a very real thing. There's a lot of pressure on him. 5-game swing, gets a bunch of money, one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the game. This is now beginning to pile on, and you'll see how he performs the second go around.
Welcome back. James Harrison, TJ Houshmandzadeh, and Bucky Brooks are back. Let's move to New England, where it's been a dramatic offseason for the Patriots so far. And as the Boston Sports Journal reports, the friction between Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, and Robert Kraft has yet to be hashed out, explaining, quote, Belichick continues to be irritated that Kraft has increasingly injected himself into areas that were largely Belichick's domain during his tenure with the Patriots. That includes the owner's deference to Brady and his role in the retention of Josh McDaniels. I've been on this topic the entire offseason. I think there's a problem in New England. Mostly we focused on Belichick and Brady, but I think there is an issue. Greg Bedard, who wrote this story, is an authority on the New England Patriots. There's an issue between Belichick and Robert Kraft. Belichick hiring Josh McDaniels as coach in waiting or on the staff as coach in waiting, when he turned down that Indianapolis job, that was a red flag to me. This, to me, feels like Belichick's last year in New England.
Robert Kraft's the owner. He can do what he wants to do. That's the ultimate bottom line. Belichick answers to Kraft. The problem is Kraft is giving Belichick the leeway to do what he wants as if it's his team. And now that Kraft has interjected himself in saying, okay, McDaniel's going to be the coach waiting. Okay, we're going to trade Garoppolo. Belichick is like, what? When have you ever done this? I pretty much get to run the show. I do what I want to do. And so now that Kraft is saying, no, you can't. This is my team. he's feeling some type of way about it.
Yeah, I think he is feeling some type of way. But to speak to the friction, I think the friction really has existed from the Super Bowl. You go back and you do all the things that you're asked to do, and James obviously knows, to sacrifice, to give of yourself, to check your ego and do all those things. When you lose, it is harder to look at the guy the same way, particularly when there hasn't been the conversation about whatever took place in the Super Bowl. I think we are beginning to see some of the cracks in the foundation of the New England Patriots and the foundation that has made them perennial champions.
I don't feel like his tenure will end. I think his tenure will end when he decides he wants it to end. And just from me being there, I feel like just from conversations I've had with him, that's going to be sometime in the next few years. Maybe 2 or 3 years. I don't see it obviously being next year, but it's a possibility it could be.
You were just there a short time,
yes.
But to me it seems odd, Josh McDaniels turning down that coaching job and coming back to New England. That makes him the coach in waiting, and Belichick is always a one-voice guy.
When is the coach in waiting? Is it this year, next year? When do you think that is?
I think Robert Kraft has made some promises. There's been nothing publicly leaked or said, but I think Robert Kraft has made some promises. I think it's one more year. That's why Belichick isn't addressing it.
If that happens, Josh McDaniel takes over. Tom Brady will prove that Belichick is not the reason he's winning. Tom Brady will play one more year.
He can't prove that.
Why can't he?
He can prove that look, Belichick's
a great coach. I'm not taking anything away from him.
Bill Parcells never won a Super Bowl without Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick.
I'm not taking anything away from him, but ultimately, the players play.
Like I said, I was there for like a short period of time, but even with me coming in looking for stuff, it wasn't blatantly obvious to me. I didn't see anything between their interactions when they did talk that made me think, oh, they're having issues. But like I said, I was there for, 5-6 weeks, so.
After the Super Bowl, have you stayed in contact with any of the Patriots in terms of the people question about what happened with Malcolm Butler?
I actually talked to Matty P, and what it came down to is they
Matt
thought.
Patricia.
Yeah.
Okay.
What it came down to is they thought that his practice leading up to that point, wasn't up to par.
So he didn't want to really tell you the truth.
That's what he said.
That's pretty much what it was. He didn't want to tell you to practice. The dude performed all year as one of your better defensive players, but he had a bad week of practice. Come on, man.
Well, and I think that goes to the distrust. You talk about being in a game. We've all been in games where somebody is struggling. And when that person is struggling, players would go to the coach and say, Coach, we got to get him out. And so the fact that Malcolm Butler is healthy and available, and at no point did they put him in, it's hard to look at Bill Belichick the same way when you're a player because he cost somebody a ring.
And you stopped giving Alex Guerrero access. You stopped giving Dr. G access.
He has access, dude. I've seen him.
No.
I've seen him walk through there.
I know
I've seen this dude walk through there. He may not have access
that he once
to
had.
other
I know
players
that for a fact.
As far as doing other things that he do, but he walks through that locker room.
But
he gets what he needs out of that training room.
He wasn't given the access that he once had was taken away, and I know that for a fact.
Some things were taken away. I couldn't tell you what they were because I know what access he did have while I was there, and I was expecting not to see this person at all.
Did he work on you?
No.
Man,
I got my own method.
And when you got that big money, that's expected.
I want to stay here, though, on Alex Guerrero for a minute. Is that different than any individual trainer you saw in Pittsburgh having access in the locker room or to individual players in Pittsburgh?
That's a big difference. They got their own thing there. I haven't had any actual outside people that were coming in that they didn't have approved to work on the whole team, and it wasn't just just one individual.
So the Alex Guerrero situation wouldn't have happened in Pittsburgh.
I don't know. It depends. How. He's been with him forever. The man's 40 years old. He's still playing at the top of the game. He's rated the number one player in
If
the
Big
league.
Ben wanted to have his own personal trainer, the Steelers probably would have allowed it.
Hell, that's a lot of money.
I think a lot of teams would allow a guy, if they're paying for it,
right?
If the player's paying for it, a lot of teams will allow a guy to work on that player within the facility if the team does not have to foot the bill for it. A lot of teams will allow that.
And you, knowing Alex Guerrero, you've known him as long as anybody, you think his access being cut off bothered Tom Brady?
I believe
and
it
bothered
did.
Alex Guerrero?
I wouldn't say it bothered Alex, but I know it bothered Brady. It had to, because this is a guy that is keeping me healthy. That's not only me, guys on the team. Gronkowski, Wes Welker when he was there, Amendola, Julian Edelman, they're all going to see this guy. He really knows what he's doing.
But
So it
I
had
think
to
what
bother
it came
Tom.
down
It had to.
is that you have a guy that is not in your training staff, that is not, you know, the actual head trainer, and you got somebody else coming in from the outside, and they're saying, hey, now they're seeing other players besides Tom, and they're saying, I want you to do this and do that. Well, it's the total opposite of what the trainer is telling them to do, but it's something that's going to help them. What you need to realize is training staffs in the NFL are so far behind as far as their upkeep of what they need to do to have these guys healthy.
Ice and stem.
Ice and stem, that's all they do, ice and stem. You come in here, you break your hand, let's ice and stem. You pull a muscle, let's ice and stem.
Ice and
and that's
stem.
not the protocol for everything. Things have changed. They have technology. They have, studies that show it's different ways of doing things, and we're so far behind.
But I
with that.
think the one thing about that, if you talk about the Patriots being a one-voice operation, that goes counter to that culture of Belichick and the staff and everyone kind of controlling it. You can see where there could be some friction created by Tom Brady maybe going over top of Belichick to be able to get Alex Guerrero in the building and having access that other guys
And as you get older, and Brady's been there so long, you kind of just get tired of the guy just on your neck all the time. Like, bruh, let me breathe sometimes.
I'm going to defend, we'll wrap here, but I'm going to defend NFL teams in this regard. I guarantee that one of the reasons their training staffs are ice and stem and very primitive and basic is trying to protect themselves from a potential lawsuit. If you do some of the cutting edge things that maybe an Alex Guerrero does and it doesn't work, next thing you know, you're involved in some sort of lawsuit. And so they keep it very simple as a protection. That may be
I
why
think
they're
that should
so
be
behind.
liable for neglect, because now you're not giving me the proper treatment I need to recover.
And see, the thing with Alex is, like, I think people perceive him to be this witch doctor. All he's doing is working your muscles. He doesn't have all these different contraptions and machines. He's just working on you, just him. He doesn't have these different machines that he has you using at all.
Welcome back. TJ Houshmandzadeh is here for Last Call. Let's move to Atlanta, where Julio Jones has been demanding a new deal from the Falcons, who reportedly are promising their all-world receiver that they will discuss it after the season. TJ, should Julio trust the Falcons?
I'm going to trust him. I'm going to take him for their word this 1 year. He has 3 years remaining on his contract at $34 million. You have no choice but to trust him. Now, can he completely trust him? That remains to be seen. He has no choice.
I'm a little surprised to hear you say that, because I do think that he should trust them. And it's really not about trusting them. It's about trusting him. As long as Julio Jones believes at the end of this season, I'm still going to be the most talented wide receiver in the NFL and the best player. He's the best player on the Atlanta Falcons. They'll have no choice but to renegotiate with him at the end of this season.
Yeah, I think for him, he's making $11 million per year remaining on his contract. I will wait and try to break what Antonio Brown's making at $17 a year.
All right, real quick to Philadelphia, where Super Bowl MVP Nick Foles has been leading the NFL in merchandise sales this offseason, with Brady #2 and the guy Foles is backing up Carson Wentz at #3. TJ, are you shocked Nick Foles is #1?
That is a shocker. But when Philadelphia wins their first Super Bowl, what can be expected? They're getting all the merchandise. Anything that has anybody's name on it, we're purchasing it.
I am shocked, but it also, to me, explains why the dude should have went out and got his money this year and demanded a starter salary. He should be out of Philadelphia and a starting quarterback.